打たないのですか?
What's going on, man? Today on the chopping block, we got some of the coldest abilities in all of anime. We're going to be discussing teleportation techniques and which one may be the best out of the ones I've chosen. I'm just going to tell you the ones I've chosen because really what they are isn't the secret, it's the shit that comes after that. So we have Boogie Woogie from Jujutsu Kaisen. We got Flying Raijin from Naruto, Instant Transmission from DBZ, and we have Hide and Seek from Hunter x Hunter. Those are the 4 techniques we're going to be discussing today. When we discuss them, we're going to leave our bias out of it. And by bias, I mean how the person that has it in the show uses it is not the ability in and of itself. That's how they in particular use it. So you can be influenced by how they use it to make a pick. We're not doing all that shit, all right? We're going to think about the ability and just the ability, not how anyone else would use it, but just the pros and cons of the ability, all right? Hit the like button for me if you like content like this, and if you want to see more, subscribe as well, man. You know what it is. Don't be hating, bro. It helps a brother out, you feel me? So, yeah, before we get into that, let's hit some honorable mentions real quick. From Kagurabachi, we have the ability Crow. You know, it's a sub ability from Toby Mune. I'm not going to talk about it. That is the hit manga, Kagurabachi. I do need to say that because it is a hit. But yeah, that's Crow. I'm not going to explain it in case anyone wants to go read it, but Crow. Then we have Amino Tejikara, which is Sasuke's teleportation technique that he uses in conjunction with his Rinnegan. Then we have Shambles, which is Law from One Piece's ability. It's a derivative of the Op Fruit ability. You know, it's not the ability in and of itself, but it is something he can do with it. I think that shit's sick as hell. And then we have Kamui, which is Kakashi, originally Obito's Sharingan ability. All of those are sick-ass teleportation techniques that just, you know, not this time they didn't make it. Maybe we'll make another video discussing some of those. Not all of them in one video, but spread out. If you want to see a part 2 to me discussing the teleportation techniques, let me know. Obviously, you won't know until after you see the video, but you know how it goes. So let's talk about it. Let's just briefly go over what each of these teleportation techniques does, and then at the end, we'll try to figure out which one's the best one. So starting with Boogie Woogie, it swaps position with any 2 objects or beings with cursed energy within the range. You know, there's a set range, and it's activated by clapping your hands. Okay, it's a swapping teleportation technique. It's not just I go over where I want to go. It's I have to trade places with something. So, you know, a bit of a spin on typical teleportation. Next, we have Flying Raijin, and you teleport yourself and or whatever you touch to a marked location, but it does require a mark or a formula to activate. So you can't just shift and go over where you want to go. You need a mark or something to do that. Next is Instant Transmission. You teleport yourself and or whatever you're touching to a location by sensing and locking on to an energy signature or a key signature. Okay, so this is straight up teleportation, but once again, like Flying Raijin, the caveat is you need a energy signature to lock onto. You can't just go wherever you want to go. Lastly, we have Hide and Seek, which is a bit of a different one. You create a pocket dimension that takes on the form of a 4-story building, and you can create portals that lead in and out of marked locations. Others can enter and leave as well at your discretion, and portals need to be opened on flat surfaces. So obviously, particularly with Hide and Seek, there's a lot more that go into these abilities, but for now, these descriptions will suffice. You get the point on how they are. Boogie Woogie's a swapping one. Flying Raijin teleports, but it needs a mark. Instant Transmission teleports, but it needs an energy signature. And Hide and Seek is kind of like a space manipulation where you can open a pocket dimension that connects 2 points in space. So, yeah, they're all different. Now, let's get into the pros and cons of each one of these. Let's start at the top again and start with Boogie Woogie. So the pros are quick activation. Boom, boom, boom. I'm clapping. As soon as I were to get Boogie Woogie, not Toto, just forget about him. If I were to get the ability, or you were to get the ability Boogie Woogie, we could clap our hands and activate the technique. That's pretty raw. Boom, I'm switching over there. Quick activation. No setup required. I don't need to do anything. I can just clap my hands and do it, as I said. Super successive usage. That means boom, 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 boom. As much as I can clap my hands is as much as I can use boogie woogie. That's sick as hell. That's important because that isn't the case with a lot of these other teleportation techniques. So this is a huge pro for boogie woogie. Super successive. And if you don't know what successive means, it just means one after the other. You can keep spamming this ability over and over, which is pretty cool. And then lastly, it's super unpredictable. No regular person can predict how boogie woogie is going to work. Boom, you don't know. You can swap places with the person and with an object. Like, it's so hard to, figure out, as we've seen in its respective series. So those are the pros for boogie woogie. With cons, a little bit different. It needs energy. It consumes energy, obviously, which is going to be the same case for all of these, but I need to state it. It has a limited range, not unlimited, a limited range. Not the case for some of these other abilities. So this is a huge drawback for boogie woogie. It does have a limited range. You can't just go across the verse. You need to swap something that's probably within, a set range or something you could see, that type of stuff. And non-lethal. You can't actually hurt or kill anybody with boogie woogie itself. That's important because it's not the case for, another one of these abilities. Let's move on to Flying Raijin. The pros are its semi-successive usage. You might be like, hey, Kite, what the... You just said boogie woogie was super successive. How is Flying Raijin only semi-successive? Well, I'll get to that in the cons, but this is still a pro because some of the other abilities are not as successive. You can't use them over and over again. So for Flying Raijin, semi-successive is still a pro. Unlimited range. That is the biggest attracting factor of Flying Raijin. You can go anywhere. It doesn't matter. There is no stated limit to where Flying Raijin can go. If you put a mark on a rocket ship and you send that motherfucker to Pluto, you can go to Pluto. Like, there is nothing stopping you from that. So that's a pretty big attraction for, it's a big positive for Flying Raijin. And then another positive is a permanent effect. Whatever you put the mark on, dead or alive, it's going to remain there and you can always get there. There's no limit to how many marks you can place on things that we know of. That's a huge positive. Very big positive for Flying Raijin. As for the cons, you can't use it without a setup. This is why it's semi-successive. If you were to just give me the ability Flying Raijin, or you take the ability Flying Raijin, you can't just activate it and teleport somewhere. You need to have a mark. So it's not super successive because in order for it to be that, you would have to set it up beforehand, which is it's cheap. It's not real succession. You can't just boom, 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 clap and move it. Like, you have to go put your marks, and you're not Minato, so you wouldn't think to put it on a bunch of knives and throw it because that's just not how we work in our daily life. You'd have to use it a different way. So yeah, you can't use it without a setup. It consumes energy. It's non-lethal. It doesn't hurt anybody. Flying Raijin itself is not damaging anyone, and it's very predictable. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. Flying Raijin is super predictable. You can see the marks that are put on you. You have to be super sneaky, intelligent, whatever to do that, but that's how Minato uses it. The ability itself is very predictable. People will see these marks. They will know that, after they, see you a little bit, they'll understand the ability, and that's that. You they might nullify it depending on how good you are with it. So yeah, it is predictable, and that's a huge downside to Flying Raijin. Let's move on to instant transmission. The pros are it has extreme range. Not quite unlimited because it is limited to what you can focus and concentrate on. What can you sense and lock onto? And so it has the potential to be unlimited, but it isn't unlimited in and of itself from the get-go. It depends on you, so you can do with that what you will. It is super successive, just like boogie woogie, because I don't know if you know this about instant transmission, but it is turning yourself into energy and entering this this teleportation zone, and then you're going to what you're sensing. It's super successive because you can do that a shit ton of times around someone. Goku can, boom, hit a bunch of planets in a few seconds. You're not Goku. But within a small area around someone, you can hit any point around that zone and keep spamming it and zoom, 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 and go around them. We've seen that done before. So you can kind of do that. So that does count as super successive. And then mass teleportation. You can enter a bunch of people can enter some kind of building, ship, or whatever, and you can teleport that entire ship somewhere, and they're all coming with you. You could probably do that with Flying Raijin, but we really haven't seen that. I'm not just gonna give it to him. I ain't giving it to him, but I have to give it to instant transmission because that is something that can be done with it. Now, for the cons of instant transmission, you need concentration. Unlike boogie woogie, you have to sense it. Of course, you can overcome that with practice, but you know, if you're in the nick of time, like you're gonna have to use the ability properly. So it does need concentration to use. There's a lack of precision. If your concentration gets disrupted, if your energy gets disrupted for whatever reason, you won't go where you're trying to go. We saw that in Dragon Ball Super. So it is a huge drawback. It consumes energy. And I think the biggest drawback is that this is probably the hardest ability to learn out of all of these techniques. If you can master instant transmission, yeah, you have a pretty insane ability, but there's a huge learning curve to it, and it is definitely the hardest out of all of these to learn, I believe, because it takes a lot of focusing your energy. It's not just the ability itself, it's energy manipulation, which it's hard, man. Just trust. Now, let's move on to hide and seek. For the pros of hide and seek, it's lethal. It's the only one out of all these that you could actually kill somebody with. And that's a huge pro because it's a unique aspect of hide and seek. You can kill someone with it. There's a derivative of hide and seek, a sub-hatsu, if you will, called Scream, I believe. You open a portal in between your hands, and there's some kind of command you have to say, open it, and then say something, close it, and it transports whatever part was in that portal to a different location, and it essentially rips that body part off, kind of like Kamui. So you can kill someone with that. And that's a big plus if you want that aspect. It's semi-permanent effect as well. Flying Raijin was permanent because you can do as many as you want and they last forever. But with hide and seek, I don't think you can do as many as you want. But if you want one to last forever, or two or three, wherever you put them, they'll stay there as long as you want them there. There is a limited number. I'm not sure how many it is. I think it's like 20-something doors or 30-something doors per floor of the Pocket Dimension building, but who knows? But I do know that it's semi-permanent and it depends on the situation. Storage. This is the only teleportation technique where you can store shit inside of it because it is a 4-story Pocket Dimension. You can set traps with it. You can use your aura on a flat surface, write it up, drop your aura in there, and if someone touches it, activates it, they'll fall into your Pocket Dimension and they're trapped there and they can't get out unless you let them. That's a pretty insane aspect to it. And then I think overall, hide and seek for pros, it just is the most versatile. Like it's the most versatile teleportation technique out of all of these, so I have to give that to it. Now here are the cons. For as strong as the cons are, or as strong as the pros are for hide and seek, the cons are pretty heavy as well. You know, it's just an equal trade-off. So you can't use it without a lengthy setup. Unlike these other ones, you can pretty much use them instantaneously and go wherever you want to go. But with hide and seek, you have to draw, circle, put your aura in, and then, yeah, it's a whole process. It's not a second. It probably takes a few seconds or whatever at the least. And that's a huge drawback because that's not really teleportation. You know, depending on how you want to view it. So it's tough. Along with that, it's not instantaneous. Like, you have to enter the portal, I think go in through a door into the fucking Pocket Dimension, and then pick a door to go out of, whatever. And so that takes a few seconds, I believe. It's not instantaneous, and that's a huge drawback because teleportation is in and of itself considered to be instantaneous. So the fact that this ability doesn't have that kind of sets it back. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't fit in with the rest. So yeah, and it consumes energy as well. So those are the cons, the pros and cons for all 4 of these abilities that I've chosen for this video. What do you think is the best one? Honestly, leave your bias out of it. Don't think about how the characters use them. Think about the abilities. If I presented you with the pros and cons of all these abilities, explained how they work, which one would you pick for just you? You're not in Dragon Ball, you're not in AOT, you're not in JJK, you're not in Naruto, you're not in any anime. So you're just in everyday life. Which one of these sounds the most appealing? Which one is the best one fundamentally? Honestly, bro, Boogie Woogie, it's pretty good. I think for everyday life, Boogie Woogie would be sick. I'm not saying this is my pick, but I have to say that, you know, if the remote's over there and I don't want to get the remote, get the pen, clap, this shit will teleport and have my remote. That's pretty useful. And I can do that with anything. And along with that, if you put like sports or you do any kind of activity, it's the most disorienting ability out of all of them. So just boom, boom, clapping. Like, imagine going for an alley-oop and you switch places with someone that's like going to block it out the air and you grab it instead, dunk that. Oh, and it's just like, that's tough. Like, no one can stop that. Now, you might get caught by Area 51. They might experiment on you for that. But still, like, let's just say that doesn't happen. For everyday life, Boogie Woogie is cold. Boom, quick clap. You're out of there. That shit's tough. I'm not going to lie. So, Boogie Woogie, it's hard not to want that one. And then for instant transmission, if you just want to travel to any place, that's like the best one. Of course, you need to lock onto an energy signature, but there could be some sort of verse equalization that would allow you to lock on to shit. You know, it might not be energy, but it may be like, you know, our form of spirituality that's like, hey, the certain vibe that maybe African people give off, take me there. Ethiopian people, like whatever country in Africa, or if you want to go to Japan, like the vibe that Japanese people get off, super serious, straightforward, you know, duty bound, honor bound, and teleport there. I don't know how it would work, but if you want to just go places, instant transmission is the best one if you like to travel. You know what I'm saying? And then flying Raijin, if you're like an assassin, that'd probably be the best one. Because I got safe houses all over, put marks on you. If you're an assassin, flying Raijin's like pretty good. So it depends on how you want to work. If you got to think about how you want to use the ability, what your everyday life is, I guess, and then pick that ability. As for hide and seek, I think obviously it's just the most versatile out of all of them, but it's not really teleportation. It's kind of like a space warping, which, I mean, it's kind of like Gojo's shit, but like a less quick version. Gojo just compresses space. This links 2 points in space. Pretty sick. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's teleportation, but just a different spin on it. Which one would you want? Honestly, I gotta go with, for me in my life. No. I'm gonna go objective. I'm gonna let y'all pick my life. But objectively, I think if I read all of these out and I heard me give descriptions, pros and cons, I'm picking hide and seek, bruh. I can kill people with it. Like, I could protect my house with it. If I needed to move, I could stuff all my stuff in my pocket dimension and then open a portal in my new crib and just take everything out. I don't have to hire movers. I can do all types of things. I can set traps, protect my house, like I said. After a certain time at night, I could just set a trap by the front door. None of my family should be going in and out. So if someone hits that, boom, they're an intruder. Boom, they're caught in my freaking dimension. I can deal with them later. If I got to eliminate them, lethal, scream, get them out of there, smoke them down. Not saying I would do that, but just I have that option, which is nice to know. And I have a pocket dimension. No one will ever know. No one will ever find them. So, like, I'm getting away with it. But, yeah, and then storage, all that stuff, versatility, you can do a bunch of things. You can also mass teleport, like instant transmission. It just won't be instantaneous, but you can get a lot of people out of a place. And, you know, I think you have to give them permission to do it, but still, it doesn't matter. I think hide and seek is the best one, honestly, for just how I would see it. Personally, I think it's the best one. It has the most options. It's slower than all the other ones, but life is not an everyday battle of life and death. We're not in these verses where a split second will cost you your life on a day-to-day basis. That's not true. I mean, it is true, but it's just we're not face-to-face with that decision every day like in anime. Most times shit's pretty easy going. So I think hide and seek for me is the best option. You can let me know your choice, but that's the end of the video. Let me know if you want me to compare other abilities. So if you want me to do the best ice abilities in anime, or fire, or the best visual abilities, just the ocular powers, I can do anything you want like that. Just suggest it, and then yeah. So that's the video. Also, I'll be going to Japan for a month, the month of August. So if you want me to vlog that shit and like break it up in multiple videos and post that, let me know. I can do that shit. I was wanting to do that, but I don't know if y'all want to see that. I'll be trying to get into all types of shit down there. So if y'all want to see that, let the boy know and we can make that happen. Get that going. But yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe. And as always, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. 君の気持ちを大事にしなかった私の